point us in the right direction for the hit.
He was right in there where he was.
Okay.
This is another really interesting track with some good lessons learned, so let's get into the details. The shot was taken around 4:15 in the afternoon the day prior, so around 16 hours ago. The hunter was shooting with a rifle, a 300 Winchester short mag. The buck was around 115 yards away, was knocked down at the shot, got up, and ran into the woods with blood visible on the far shoulder. The hunter waited about a half an hour to start tracking, found blood, a couple different colors, but around 250 yards into the track, found fragments of bone. Now, I actually had a friend hunting with them. They called me in the dark while tracking, sent me photos of the blood and of the bone. I advised them based on what I saw to back out. We'd track it the next day. So we're there on scene. Jaeger's ready to track as always. Let's get started.
Let me know when we get to your first blood that you knew. Find him, Jaeger. You just made a nice turn there. Does it seem like about the right direction? I'm not seeing any blood yet, but I know it rained and stuff last night. Yeah, we're on it. I got blood. Okay. I confirm blood back there. This is where you walked around? Yeah, I'm seeing blood here again. Find him, Jaeger. Say again. Yeah, so there's blood downhill there and uphill. So that he either stood there a while deciding, or that's where he doubled. Say again. I see he's on blood here. Right where he is now. This is where you stopped. So you have not been up in here.
Let's pause here for an onX hunt overview, kind of recap what we know so far. Here you can see the stand, the hit site, and as the track progressed. We've gone around 350 yards of tracking at this point. Now, we found some blood along the way, and as you can see from some of the blood photos, it was very, very bright. A lot of people would see this blood and think, well, I shot him right in the vitals. But we've gone, again, over 350 yards of tracking at this point, and yet no deer. So what's going on? Cause for alarm. Now, when we get to the point around 250 yards in where they found the piece of bone, this is where it gets more interesting. This bone fragment is curved. The only places you're going to find this kind of curved bone that's curved on the outside and hollow on the inside is from leg bone of the deer or the bottom jaw of the deer. So now we know we have a deer that's gone 350 yards. It's bleeding clearly, but we know it's a leg hit. So we probably missed vitals is one of the reasons that it's already gone this far. So let's pick the track up and see how it unfolds.
Where'd he go, Jaeger? Where'd he go, pal?
I figured this right there where he went.
Where'd he go, pal? Find him. All right, keep an eye out for blood. Try to get confirmation. Jaeger's kind of searchy. This is him looking. Y'all stay put there. Where'd he go, Jaeger? Figure it out, pal. Where'd he go? Figure it out, pal. He's doing some sorting here. Don't move too much. There's a good turn there. But where'd he go, Jaeger? I got blood. Come up here. Blood here.
Let's pause here for another Onyx Hunt track overview because that was an interesting stretch. Now, when we left the woods and entered the clearing, Jaeger kind of settled on a line on the edge of the clearing, which would be a typical spot for a buck to walk. But not far into it, we cut a cleared trail, he made a hard right, we came through a gap in some brush, and he almost started looping back. And at that time, he got what I call birdie, which is just excited, like he's bird hunting. He's hopping with more frequency, his head is up and down, his tail wag changes, he's clearly excited by something. It could very well be turkeys had walked here. I don't know, but something's getting him riled up. We continued across that field, and then he kind of probed into the woods a few times. Every time he did that, I applied leash tension, and you'll see he stopped and came back. That tells me that something was getting him excited there, but it wasn't the deer line. So that was good to see that interaction. He comes back, and then we cross almost the entire clearing before he starts settling in again. He gets distracted at one more point, then he really settles down on the line. We go a little further, and we reconfirm blood. Now, it's great when you go this distance and can still reconfirm blood. I'm starting to enter the phase of the track where it's all faith in Jaeger. We've gone over 500 yards now from where we entered the field. So we got blood reconfirmed. He's tracking with some purpose. Let's see how the rest unfolds.
Blood here. Find him, Jaeger. See the blood there when you passed it? It's right there behind you. I'm hearing crows. Where'd he go, Jaeger? Just want to turn back in here pretty hard. We'll let him keep working this, but he's sorting it out. It'll be easy to reset at last blood if we have to. You see him? I do see it, yep. Yeah. Man, I'm sorry, coyotes got him. He's a big deer. Good boy, Jaeger. Good boy, Jaeger. Cool buck.
Thank you. Good boy, Jaeger.
Good boy, Jaeger.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Man, this is, yeah, but I really think you did the right thing.
Who was never found?
Waiting. Coyotes just demolished
I
him.
told you he was a stud.
He's a good deer.
Get you a cape, you'll be good to go.
Good boy, Jaeger. Good boy. I seen the rib showing once coming down the hallway.
I'll give you my phone.
This going on Facebook here.
Hey, Jaeger. Yeah, you found him. My guess is coyotes ran him last night a little bit. The way he went up there and then did that turn.
Dude, that was amazing to watch.
Well, that's one of your legs.
Yeah, I want to study the shot a little bit. I always try to.
Well, that's what I was.
Okay, so we have a recovery. Now what can we learn from it? Let's pause here again and look at the Onyx Hunt track overview to see how things transpired from last blood. You can kind of see how Jaeger made a path. We're continuing on. He was still acting erratically here or there. And then finally just really settled in on a line. We dropped down into the creek drainage there, and there was the buck's carcass. Now coyotes beat us to it, but there's a lot to learn. And one of the best parts about tracking, once you have a recovery, is what can you learn from it? So in looking at the deer's rib cage, we determined that no bullet had actually passed into the vitals. Even though coyotes had eaten it, all the ribs were still there, and there was no bullet wound or damage to any ribs. So what we determined was the bullet actually entered front of brisket and blew out the upper bone there on the far shoulder. So that was the bone they recovered, and that's typical of a wound like that. When you're a couple hundred yards in and you find a bone fragment, that's because that bone fragment worked its way out as the deer's running. Usually if you hit a rib, let's say at the hit site, there'll be bone right there, or a leg piece of bone will be right at the hit site as well. But rib bones are distinctly flat, and if you recall, these bones were curved, and that's a definitive indicator of a leg hit. So now you can see in these depictions the actual bone and how it was shot. Now let's go back and see what we can learn from the actual track. Here on the Onyx overview, if you recall, we had the hit site, we made it the first blood, we made the turn where there was a lot more blood, we got to where the bone fragment was found, and then we hit the field. Once we entered the field is when things got a little interesting, and if you recall, Jaeger's behavior got a little erratic. He was clearly excited, he was changing directions a lot. I didn't know why, but now it's a lot clearer as to why. And I have two theories as to why. First, let's talk about what we know. No theory, there was a buck there, and there were coyotes there. They ate him. We know that. So theory number one is the buck bedded in one of those thickets, was jumped, ran around that area for a while before finally succumbing and being devoured down in the gully. Theory number two is that the buck worked its way through that zone, continued along the path Jaeger primarily took, it died down in that gully, and then was eventually found by coyotes, and they're coming to and leaving the carcass simply spread scent all over, and that's what Jaeger was smelling and getting excited. Either way, we'll never know. However, we do know that scent does pool in low areas like that. So there was scent blowing down, there was some scent blowing up, and certainly a lot of scent in the air from coyotes, a pack of coyotes pretty much eating an entire deer. Here's one other interesting tidbit you're about to see, is that when they removed the head from the buck to recover it, the meat was still warm on the neck. Since that meat was still warm, that reinforces the theory that this buck was alive for a good portion of the night, if not the entire night, jumped by coyotes that morning, and then eaten. It was in the 20s overnight, so any exposed meat should get cold very, very quickly. So it's 9 o'clock. My guess is that it was eaten that morning, and coyotes coming to and from. It was still some very, very fresh scent around, and that's what was throwing Jaeger off. But I do want to point out here that this is one of the reasons that I will always default to tracking the following morning after a marginal hit. A couple 100 yards in, we find bone and no deer. That automatically is a red flag that this deer may need extra time. Had that deer been tracked that night, it very likely would have been jumped by humans before we ever saw it. And then it could have run all the way off the property, and then you may never have found it, and it likely still would have been eaten by coyotes. So there's a significant chance that this buck was only recovered because coyotes finished it.
So, like I was saying when we started, you know, my philosophy on coyotes is if you bump a deer, you just lay more of a net for them. So, to me, on a night shot like that, I'll always default to the morning and roll the dice on coyotes, because if he runs 200 yards in beds, there's only a 200-yard net. But if you go in and you bump that deer and he runs 1,000 yards, now you got a 1,000-yard coyote net.
Yeah. And we got coyotes. There's been 3 killed since gun season.
So I just always think it's better to default. You know, you shot him when 4 o'clock yesterday-ish.
Yep, 4 o'clock.
So now it's
4 o'clock on the dot. Pretty
you know 8. What time is it? It's like 9 the next almost 9 the next morning. So the neck meat is still warm.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that means that.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Yeah, you got eating probably this morning early.
Good boy.
Good boy, Jaeger. Well, Jeremy, thank you very much for
Thank you,
waiting.
sir. I
and
appreciate
being
it.
patient.
Appreciate it.
He's a gorgeous buck, and sorry the coyotes got him, but I think you made the right call.
You need a tracking dog, call Jaeger.
Get him, Jaeger.
Weidman's Heil to the hunter. If you have any questions on this track, please feel free to ask them below, and you can check us out on social media at Jaeger Tracks.